Hey guys, Jack Wilkie here for another cultural breakdown. It's been a few weeks. I was kind of trying to decide what to do with the format. It is something I still want to use, but it's a little hard to get on and do 20 or 30 minutes every week. Sometimes there's not always a pressing cultural issue to talk about, and so I've decided to migrate it to these short reaction videos when something really big pops off in the culture, when it's all the discussion on Facebook and Twitter and elsewhere. And so this is going to be one of those. I'm also adding a few other video features that I'll tell you about here at the end of this video starting this week. I'm very excited about that. And so again, I'll tell you about that towards the end of the video here. What I wanted to talk about this week, though, one that really has captured the national and really the global conversation, is the controversy of the Olympic opening games in Paris. I believe it was Friday that they had the opening ceremony, and it's always a very flashy festival, just very much a choreographed show that puts on all kinds of scenery. And this one, they decided to bring in drag queens. There were visible genitalia in the scenery. It was a disgusting display, but the thing that caught the most attention was the alleged blasphemous Lord's Supper recreation with drag queens and such, and there was a child involved, and just something very hard to look at. And immediately there was a gut reaction. Satanic was trending on Twitter, and Sodom and Gomorrah was trending on Twitter. People were seeing it as very much a thumbing their nose at Christianity and at Christ himself. The next day, the very next thing that happened is people coming out and saying, no, that wasn't the Lord's Supper. You Christians are too sensitive. It was actually Dionysius and one of those Greek feasts, and the wine flowing and everybody having a good time. And that's actually what they were going for. And so Christians, calm down with the hair trigger. Stop getting offended about everything. It's not that. And of course, a lot of Christians jumped on that. Like, hey guys, let's not get mad about this. Like, even if it were the Dionysius thing, that was a drag queen show with a bearded man lady kind of thing dancing in front of people on what was supposed to be family programming worldwide. So let's not act like this was all of a sudden a sanitized, oh, it's totally healthy, let's sit down in front of the TV with everybody and watch it. No, but the question persists, was it blasphemy towards the Lord's Supper? Dwayne Bryant, a brother, did a really good job breaking the whole case down on his blog. I'll put a link in the description here. I thought he did a good job of showing that if it was posting, or if it was pointing to Dionysius and the Greek, there's the term for it. I'm going to not pronounce it because I would butcher the term. But of the kind of feasts that they observed, if it was that, they were missing a few elements. Why didn't they just come out and say that? It sure seemed to be blasphemous, and so he made a good case. But then after that, one of, in fact, the performer that was the Christ figure in the middle of what would have been the Last Supper, posted to her Instagram story that's exactly what it was. Reposted somebody saying, or calling it the gay Last Supper, or the gay New Testament, or something like that. And so there's your answer. I mean, the person who was at the center of it took it as that, and so I think that pretty well solves the problem. And for Christians who really wanted to rush to, no, it's not that, I want to just tell you, pay attention to what time it is. This is the kind of stuff that happens. We give them a pass way too easily. When you see a pattern, it's okay to recognize the pattern. And the pattern is that they like making fun of God. They love making fun of Christ, the cross, of things like that. There was the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, that blasphemous fake nun gay drag group in California last year that went to baseball games and was doing things like that. Like, this is a central part of the LGBT movement, is mocking Christianity. So don't be surprised, or don't pretend that's not something that they're going to do. They love doing it. The other thing is, why do they target Christianity and not the Hindus, not the Muslims, not any other religions that they could choose of Judaism? Why Christianity? I, of course, have a bias here, but I would say it's because it's the true one. It's the one they have a problem with because they know God is real. Romans 1 tells us all about this, that they are raging against God because they won't acknowledge him, and he's given them over. And so, having gone through all that, I don't think there's a case that can be made that it wasn't about the blasphemy of the Lord's Supper. And I saw somebody else say, well, the Last Supper, that's a Catholic thing. That's not really something that we hold to. Whether or not we claim the Last Supper, whether or not we think that is a representative of Jesus and what happened, they think that. And so they think they're attacking Jesus, so that's what should matter to us. So the question comes, should Christians boycott the Olympics? I'm going to tell you right now, I will not be watching the Olympics. I was excited to watch some of the basketball, some of the other sports that are involved. It's just a big global event that's fun to watch. I'm a big sports fan. Not going to happen. I was looking forward to watching the opening ceremony with my kids. My daughter loves things like that. Not going to happen. Not going to watch the closing ceremony. Not going to be involved. And so many times when we talk boycotts, one of the first things Christians do is say, well, how does that win souls to Christ? How does that evangelize? How does that help our reach in the kingdom? In fact, it might drive people away by saying we're not going to participate in what they did. I've said this a million times. This is something I'm just going to keep saying. Evangelism isn't everything. Evangelism is so important, but if everything we do, we run through the filter of what do the lost think about this? They're not God. We've kind of made them God. We've kind of made pleasing them and keeping them happy and keeping them within arm's reach acceptable, like that we're acceptable to them. Let's worry about pleasing God first and foremost. And some would say, well, that God would be pleased that we would reach the lost. Not in all things. There are times and places where we draw a line and say, no, that's enough. Now let me ask you, if you're a married person, let's say a TV broadcast started off by calling your spouse sexually loose, by just running her down, running him down, telling the whole world, making a mockery of them, or just really just trying to shame your spouse. Would you sit through the rest of the program? It's unthinkable. You have to have enough respect for Jesus, for our Lord and Savior, for everything that he was going through after the Last Supper, whether you agree with the Da Vinci painting or claim that as a Christian thing or not. What they were targeting with that is something that you should look and say, I don't want to be around people that treat my Lord like that. I'm not going to help fund advertising dollars for people that are going to treat my Lord like that. It's okay to have that. I think of when Jesus had his feet washed there at the Last Supper with, she breaks the expensive perfume open and pours it on his feet, washes his feet with her hair. And what does Judas say? Hey, that could have been given to the poor. He's got other considerations, but Jesus said she's done something nice for me. This is going to be mentioned everywhere the gospel is preached all around the world, and it still is. Here we are talking about it, but it's okay that something nice was done for Jesus. He appreciated in that moment of his agony that somebody stopped and said, I love you and appreciate you this much, that you are so valuable to me that I'm going to give you this. And in that moment, it was not, well, what could have been done with this? We could have given it to the poor. Judas, of course, comes across as the super pious one if you're looking at that rendering. And Jesus says, no, it's okay to do something nice for me every now and then. I think in things like this, it's not a direct application we're talking about, but the principle there of some things are more important, of doing something nice for Jesus, of prioritizing him, showing him that we care about him, actually matters to him. And again, if this was your spouse, if this were your kids, and somebody treated them that way, you probably shouldn't have anything to do with them. You should probably say something about it. You should probably say, I'm not okay with this, and I'm not going to participate in this. As Christians, as we live in this world that wants to mock Jesus, as we live in this world that wants to cast off the rule, again, Romans 1 is telling us they are raging against what they know in their heart of hearts they're supposed to do, and they don't like it, and so they're turning and making fun of him. We're not to take up the sword, we're not to fight back in that way, but to say, yeah, I'm not participating in this. This is not for me. You're perfectly within reason to do that. And as a Christian, I think we should. Again, the boycott is not for evangelistic purposes, although I think there can be an evangelistic bounce from that to say, we take this seriously. This is not a joking matter. Jesus is real. We treat him just the same as we would a beloved family member, one who's greater than a beloved family member. We're not going to tolerate that disrespect. I think there is an evangelistic nature to that as well. I think you're seeing people like Elon Musk looking and saying Christianity doesn't have any guts, because you just look at this and be like, yeah, that's fine. That's okay. We're supposed to put up with that in the name of love and peace and unity. No, it's okay to draw a line sometimes. And so, as I said, as for me and my house, we will not be watching the Olympics. I think that is perfectly fine, and it's something I recommend Christians to respond to things like this, to say, that's my line. I don't have to participate in that. As Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 10 of going and, that meat sacrifice to idols, you can think it's not a big deal, but it's a fellowship at the table of demons. Fellowship at the table of those that would blaspheme Christ. Fellowship of those, and you're going to get the Jesus ate with sinners kind of people. Yeah, but he also didn't tolerate the mistreatment of God. He didn't tolerate those that would mock and blaspheme and things like that, the cleansing of the temple, and you see things like that. It's okay as a Christian to have a little bit of a backbone sometimes. It's okay to not make your number one priority all the time. Are lost people going to get mad at me or make fun of me for this? Think about God. Think about honoring him and saying, you know what, I'm not going to participate in something that mocks him. That's perfectly fine. So that's just a few thoughts, a brief cultural breakdown here on the Olympic situation. As I said, there's going to be more brief ones like this. It will not be weekly as I intended at first because, as I found out quickly, there's not always a weekly story big enough to comment on, something that I really want to get on and say something about. But what will be weekly, number one, I've got my 2 articles a week going up. You've got the URL there on the screen, jackwilkie.co. Check those out. I'm also rolling out a new feature, 5-minute videos or so, Masculinity Monday. I'm going to be talking about just some basics of Christian masculinity, how that has been so misguided for so long. It's when we talk about Christianity not having a backbone, it's because we've gotten masculinity wrong, and so it'll be brief snippets on masculinity on videos going up there. And then Thursday, I've been wanting to do more textual stuff. There's so much topical, social, cultural commentary stuff coming from me and us at Focus Press. I think we need to get into the text some as well. That really helps a lot. And so I'll be doing Through the Text Thursdays, probably 10 or 15-minute videos breaking down a text. I'll have the text on screen. Hope you'll grab a Bible and join me for those. But I also know I'm putting out these articles, I'm putting out these videos. Not everyone has time to sit down and read 2,000-word articles, to watch 10 or 15-minute videos. I'm right there with you. All of the audio from my articles, all the audio from my videos like this will be going out on my podcast feed, the Church Reset podcast feed. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's on most major ones. If there's one you use and you can't find it, let me know. But just search Church Reset, subscribe to it. I of all people know, people aren't going to listen to every last thing I put out. That is perfectly fine. But when you have that feed, it'll come up every day when something comes out. You can see, oh, I'm interested in that. I'll listen to that. You can do it on the go when you're in the car, when you're doing chores around the house, maybe working out, whatever it is. You can just consume the content that way. That's how I get a lot of my content consumption done, is through audio articles, audio files from videos. And so I've made those available. This one will be on your podcast feed as well. So make sure you're subscribed to the Church Reset podcast feed. Again, my email list is there at jackwilkie.co. I'll have some links or some things on the screen. I'll link that article by Dwayne Bryant I mentioned earlier. But I will talk to you guys again. Check out Masculinity Monday coming just this week. It'll go up first on my Substack and then on the Focus Press YouTube channel. Lots and lots of stuff. Again, nobody's going to consume all of it, but keep an eye out. Just keep an eye on my channel, on my Substack, and just see what's going up. And Lord willing, it'll be a blessing, something that you can gain from. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next time.